We acknowledge the traditional owners of country throughout Australia and recognise their continuing connection to land, waters and culture. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging. Welcome to This Song Is Yours, the podcast where we dive into the art of songwriting, celebrate the artists behind the music and explore the stories that bring their songs to life. I'm your host, Simon Fink, and as always, thank you very much for joining us. Today's episode is a special one. It's our final interview for 2024 before we wrap up the year with our best of 2024 episode and then take a short break over the holiday season. And we're thrilled to be closing out the year with none other than indie singer-songwriter mxmtoon. Originally starting out by secretly releasing songs on YouTube, Maia, better known now as mxmtoon, quickly grew a fan base so large that there was no hiding her talent any longer. The Nashville-based artist creates deeply personal, honest indie pop that is refreshingly relatable. Along the way, she's collaborated with artists like Noah Kahan and Carly Rae Jepsen, and just a few weeks ago, Maia released her third studio record, Liminal Space. While her earlier records explored her teenage years, Liminal Space reflects a period of transition, a beautifully mature and introspective body of work that sees Maia exploring more complex themes within her writing. Now, in today's episode, we chat with mxmtoon about liminal space and the ways that Maia found herself acknowledging life's transitions in this record. We discuss the new songwriting techniques she's experimented with this time around, including fictional storytelling, which gave us one of my most played songs of the year, I Hate Texas. We also talk about how these new songs are translating to the live stage and whether we might see Maia bringing this record down under to Australia in the near future. Now, we want to thank Jaja for her help with today's episode and remind everyone that Liminal Space is out right now. You'll find links in the show notes to purchase the record and follow mxmtoon across all of her socials. While you're there, don't forget to follow This Song Is Yours on social media and check out our website to stay up to date with all of our future episodes. And with that, let's wrap up 2024 in style. Here is our conversation with mxmtoon.
Caution, hope and pray and begging that you're not in Austin. I hate Texas, but the exits have more room to run away from you.
Please welcome to This Song Is Yours, Maia, aka mxmtoon. Maia, hello. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm really excited to chat, really excited to talk about music, to talk about mine and others. I think it'll be great. I'm excited.
I'm very, very excited to have you on the podcast as well. You're our very last guest of the year, and I couldn't think to chat with anyone better than someone who has maybe appeared in my top 10 most played songs of the year. I have to admit, and we can get into it a little bit later if you want, but the drums that kick in, and then I think it's probably 3 or 4, or maybe they're layered violins that kick in for I Hate Texas. Just, gosh, the playability of that song is crazy.
Well, thank you. Oh my gosh, I'm totally unexpected in terms of knowing I Hate Texas as being a favorite song for you. So thank you. I'm really appreciative of that. But yeah, it's a good song. I can't even deny it. I'm a little biased, but yeah, it's a good song.
No, look, you have to own it. And I think that's fantastic for an artist to do. We are chatting about your brand new record. Well, brand new record in terms of it has been out for a few weeks now. It's called Liminal Space. It is fantastic. Firstly, congratulations on the record. How are you feeling with it being out in the world now? What's the response been like?
I think the response has been great. It's definitely my, I would say the most personal thing I've released thus far. And I've really been so just blown away by the response, I think, and how people have just really connected with the songs and the stories that are being shared on the whole album. So I'm super happy that it's out in the world. I've been working on it for so long. It feels like ages. And I now haven't released a record since 2022. So this was a big thing for me to put back out in the world. And I think it's been great. I'm certainly really happy on a personal level. And I think it's just exciting to continue to see how it's grown into being a part of other people's lives. Mm-hmm.
100%. From all accounts, from an outsider's perspective, it has been very well received. I see a lot of people online absolutely loving this record. I think that you've done a very good job as well of titling the record, because I feel that liminal space, by definition, is I think the term of going through a transition or kind of looking at oneself at a certain point and wondering where they're going might be a bit of an obvious question. But for yourself, was this a bit of a transitional record in terms of you as an artist?
Definitely. I mean, I think, I started writing songs in my bedroom. I was playing on ukulele, recording stuff on GarageBand, and did not know how to mix, did not know how to master. You can tell that there's way too much reverb on a lot of the early songs that I was doing, and, eventually transitioned to doing some more like kind of pop leaning stuff. And I still love that. And there's a lot of that present on Liminal Space. I think that it was definitely a really big kind of to dig really deep to figure out what sort of sound I wanted to go for on this record. And I think when listening to songs I've made in the past or thinking about projects like Rising, which is a really shiny pop record that I released, and I think this time around it felt really important to me to kind of think about the ways in which I've maybe used production as a means to like make myself feel more legitimate as an artist sometimes, and leaning more on my songwriting instead of leaning too heavily on production, kind of making me feel like I deserve my spot in pop music or whatever it may be. And I think it makes total sense to me why that would have been an instinct in the past. And I think this time around, it just felt really important to think of it more as a tool to continue making narrative lines through my songs instead of using it as kind of like a sheen on top of something that I was trying to present to other people. But yeah, I definitely do feel like it was a different and kind of like a pivot and transitionary kind of part of my life, both from a songwriting perspective and also kind of from a production element. But it feels the most me that anything has ever felt. And I definitely think that was just due to spending a lot of time going back and forth on stuff. Yeah.
I do love that, though. It has worked out for the best, though. This record is stunning. I feel that the songwriting on this, there definitely is a bit of a shift from some of your previous work. And I think that there's both, and please correct me if I'm wrong with this, there is a number of songs that are, I want to say fictional to some capacity. I don't know if you do actually hate the state of Texas, and we can talk about that. But I believe that there is some other songs that are quite, maybe not directly taken from your own life, but maybe referencing loved ones, family. I think like not heritage, but more so one's own background and things like that. Approaching this record, was there a clear goal of what you wanted to do? I know, obviously, discussing the transitional period, once you realised that, yes, we're making this new record and we're going to do this, was there a clear goal that you set out for it? And do you feel that you achieved that, I guess?
That's a great question. And I think that my urge is to say, yes, there was a clear goal. And then I also think like, if I actually take time to think about it, I don't know if there was. I think for me, it was okay. Actually, yes. I think the clear goal was maybe more having like an unclear goal and not really knowing how to go about it. I think I knew that I've been doing music for a while. I've been making music since I was, 13 years old. And I started posting music under mxmtoon when I was like 16. And so it's been a long time, like 8 years of making songs and trying to share them on the internet. And I think it's always an interesting process to capture who you are as a person and continuously present it to people over and over and over again, and wonder if the version that you're presenting to people is accurate. And I think in the past, I've really used music and projects as this kind of benchmark to be like, this is who I am and it's not going to change. And like, I think that is a lot of pressure to put on a person. And I think this time around, maybe my goal was to not have that kind of severe of a goal of like giving people this perfect portrait of who I am as a person at this point in my life, and being like, that's it, guys, I'm wrapping it up here and we're not going any further. And I think with Liminal Space, it just felt really important to me to accept being in transition and not worrying so much about getting to a finish line. And I definitely felt that way in the creative process. Like, I didn't have really a release date in mind when I started working on writing for the album. I was very much like, we're going to make it until I feel like it's like done and I've got all the songs that I want to put on it. And we did that. And I was so excited to have had the time that I did to kind of craft those songs. And I think that giving myself such a long runway was really helpful in feeling like that goal of just letting myself exist as a person without worrying if I was checking, a box or making enough, high tempo songs or like, stripped down songs or whatever it may be. And instead just making music as it was coming to me as I was living my life actively felt really important. So yeah, I think that the goal is to have less of a goal. And I think I did a good job. Yeah.
Which still works. And I think it has been done very well. I think that maybe the only intentional thing that was done with this record that I wanted to talk about, which I think is fantastic, is that it was built, created, produced, engineered, obviously written and performed by an all-female identifying team, which I think is incredible. Curious for yourself, how important was it for you to be able to build a collective around you that could achieve these goals? And I imagine, and with no disrespect to, the numerous middle-aged white men engineer producers, and there's plenty of them, and I'm sure they're fine with their, whatever they're doing. But for you, how important was it to build a team that you knew would be able to get the best version of Liminal Space out into the world?
I mean, oh my gosh, shout out to all the middle-aged white male producers. Definitely worked with my fair share, and I do love a lot of them. They're great collaborators, some of them. But I think for this one, it was really important I knew the type of record I wanted to make was only going to be aided by working with people who could innately understand the experiences that I was wanting to talk about. And so many of those experiences dealt with gender. I think on the record, there's a lot of songs about the complexities of parental and child relationships, specifically ones that, I'm navigating with my mom. And I just felt like, or talking about, how as women age, you kind of lose your value from a societal lens. Like there was just so many different aspects of gender and how it appears in my life that felt like I had actively wanted to piece through those things in a session environment. And I've been in sessions before with men where they try their best to understand where I'm coming from, and but it can always be met with like, that's interesting that you feel that way. And I'm like, that's not what I'm here for. Like, I'm not here to contextualize the experiences of my gender to another person. I'm here to write about my experiences for myself. And I can do that in an easier way when I'm working with people who don't need context clues as to why I'm talking about certain things. And so, yeah, I felt really intentional and really rewarding to go set out with that goal. And I felt lucky. I worked on a project last year that was a revisited version of the very first EP I ever made. And I got to do that, testing the theory of like, all right, I want to work with a female engineer and a female producer and mixing and mastering to have it be done by all women. And it was awesome because obviously it would be awesome to do it that way. And I ended up doing it for the whole album for Liminal Space. And it felt like a breath of fresh air to go into every single environment and not feel like I'll have to explain myself today. It was such a good feeling. And I'm so grateful. And it definitely is something that I think only did the album, justice and made it even better through the result of just like seeking out people who could listen to these songs while they were maybe like Laura Sisk mixed the whole thing. And I remember getting texts from her being like, I really love this song because of what you're talking about. And it's just like that sort of thing just didn't really happen to me before. And I think that it was because there was maybe a disconnect on kind of the narrative side of things with the people I was working with. So I feel really grateful.
Look, we are a bit of a simple gender, so I do apologise, but it is one of those things where I think that it has made the record so much better and so much not necessarily enjoyable. You are a fantastic songwriter, regardless, I think, of the teams around you, but I feel that it has helped elevate, obviously, the intent of what you're trying to get out, and I think that's worked really well. Curious as to whether you might be up for like a little bit of a game in terms of I think 2024 has belonged to the girlies. There's been so many incredible records from female identifying artists this year. Yourself, Billie Eilish, Taylor Swift, Dua Lipa, Lizzie McAlpine, the list continues to go on and on. If we were going to build a 2025 Boy Genius 2.0, including yourself, who would we maybe put on that list?
Oh my gosh. My ideal supergroup would be, oh man, that is actually so tough because there are so many incredible people. I would say the soundtracks to my 2024 did include Clairo and Charlie XCX. Charm and Brat are two of my most played records ever. This is a bit of a deep cut, not for many people, I'm sure, but for maybe not the Charlie and Claire demographic, but Tina Weymouth from Talking Heads would be also in my girl super group. She is the bassist and like a vocalist in Talking Heads. I'm obsessed with her. I think she's so cool. And then I think maybe one last person that really did define, oh man, my 2024 that would be in my super group for 2025 is probably Maggie Rogers. I think that she's also incredible. So no idea what music would be coming out of that group, but definitely depressing and maybe a bit of a bop. So who knows? Yeah.
Look, there's tears to be shed, but good times to be had as well. I think that's a fantastic collection of women there. For yourself, Liminal Space, I believe, is being taken on the road throughout the start of next year and into the year. Curious whether there's a track for yourself that you're excited most to play on the road.
I think I'm really excited to play VHS. I'm really curious how that song will translate to a live environment. I think it was the one song on the whole record that I didn't go in thinking about it from the perspective of playing it in a show. I think this is a very different perspective to have gone into an album being like, well, what will it sound like on a stage? And I was very intentional about a lot of that, but VHS is definitely the most kind of electronic sounding of the bunch. And I'm curious how that will translate, and maybe we'll lean into that a little bit. Maybe we'll lean out. I have no idea, but we're figuring out creative right now and kind of tour direction for next year. So it's definitely, the puzzle pieces are falling into place. Yeah.
I was going to ask that. I was going to ask how the, I guess in terms of when rehearsals come along, you're able to play around a bit more with the songs, like the arrangements can change. You can kind of, you've got a bit more freedom to do what you want with these songs. Yeah, I guess that was part of the question. Is there some things you're looking forward to change? Have you got some plans for certain songs from the record that might kind of alter in a certain way? Or is there something, I guess, that you've got planned special for the audience? Maybe we can't even talk about it.
I think I'm definitely a yapper, so I'll talk about it for sure unless somebody stops me. But I'm really excited about these shows. I think they're going to be really special. I think, you know, I obviously started making music online, and a lot of the songs that I was creating were not made with the intention of being able to play them on a stage, because I never even thought people would listen to them in the first place. And now I'm, you know, years down the line of that being my kind of impetus for making music and putting myself out in the world, and grateful enough to be in a position where I know my band really well. I know my crew of people that go on tour with me, and I am ready to put on a show, like properly thought out and developed. And, you know, it starts with making an album, thinking actively about how it could appear on a stage. And this is definitely a record that I feel like I've done that. So I'm excited to, you know, do some fun things, whether it's in various markets of being in Texas, which I don't actually hate, and hiring, you know, a fiddle player to come out on stage and, you know, be a part of the live instrumentation, or thinking about, you know, what sort of moments can I have that just feel like a much more live show than mxmtoon has ever had before, which I'm really excited about.
I absolutely love that. I know that there's a lot of excitement around the live shows. Might be a bit of an obvious question. Can we maybe expect to see yourself and the band down here in Australia in support of the record to play some shows?
Oh my gosh, I can't even begin to express how much I want that to happen. I know that there are people there that would be willing to come to shows. I can't say we have any plans on the books right now, but certainly if I could stomach getting on a plane for another 24 hours, I would definitely be back in a heartbeat. I love playing Australia. I feel like it is one of my goals to bring this show over to Australia and be able to play it there. So fingers crossed. I really hope that there's plans that will come into fruition. Yeah.
Look, even just putting it out into the universe, hopefully
Absolutely,
we're manifesting something somewhere.
Yeah.
I would like to very quickly ask, and I know that you kind of alluded to it just there, that you obviously don't hate Texas. Can we very quickly discuss where the song came from and how there's this, not confusion, but some people maybe reading too basically into the title?
Hey, I get it. The title is literally just I Hate Texas, so I'm going to not judge anybody if they think that is actually my full opinion. And even in the song, it's like, it sounds like I'm moving to Texas and leaving New York. I did not do I left New York. I didn't move to Texas. I'll tell you that right now. But I definitely, it was fun to kind of play around with fictionalization as a tool for songwriting this time around. And I think it's a fun thing to leave people on their toes a little bit of like, is she actually telling the truth? And suspend their disbelief a little bit to be like, all right, well, we can still enjoy the song. I don't hate Texas. I didn't move to Texas. I moved elsewhere. But yeah, it's a fun practice and not something I'm super familiar with of like just writing to write and not necessarily always needing it to be rooted in truth. And I think sometimes it can lead us to being more creative. I certainly have never written a country pop song before this one, and this is the first one. And so who knows what I'll make in the future. Maybe I'll just start saying I hate other places and see what comes out of it. Yeah.
As we mentioned, we're trying to get you down to Australia, maybe throw an Australian city in there, and it will at least get some attention here, whether it's desired or not. That might be a different question.
I don't know if I want Australians to be mad at me. You guys sometimes would be fearful of that. Yeah.
Totally fair. Look, maybe we'll workshop that. Maia, we usually end our conversations with people chatting about what they're currently listening to. For yourself, anything that's currently on high rotation?
Oh my gosh, currently on high rotation for me would be anything from Jack Johnson's discography. I've been needing to listen to stuff that is just light and airy and like easy, and man, that guy's got it down pat. And talk about a legend on the ukulele. He's definitely got the vibe. So I'm listening to it in maybe the coldest month that Nashville, Tennessee has had in recent memory, and it's providing a little bit of brightness to a rather dark day. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I was going to say the weather must not be matching that vibe, but hopefully it's bringing some kind of, no.
I'm closing my eyes and pretending. Yeah.
Look, very fair, very solid choice. Maia, thank you so much for coming to chat to us about the brand new mxmtoon record. It is called Liminal Space. It's out right now. We'll put links for people to purchase the record, follow you on social media, buy tickets to shows, all that kind of jazz. But thank you so much for coming to have a chat.
Thanks so much for having me. This was so fun.